Welcome to Elevate, the podcast where we dissect exceptional achievers who are consistently raising the bar personally and professionally to produce extraordinary results in investment real estate and ultimately in their lives. Now here's your host, Tyler Chesser.
Elevate Nation, welcome back. This is Tyler Chesser. I'm so thankful to have you here, and I'm so thankful to be with Dave Thompson. Dave, how are you, sir?
Tyler, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely, man. I'm really excited to have you on the show today, and I'm excited to welcome back Elevate Nation and all of our new listeners because, if you haven't been here yet, this is the show where we identify and apply how the best of the best are really raising the bar to achieve greatness in real estate and ultimately in their lives. And it's a masterclass. This is for leaders and those looking to achieve uncommon results and purposeful outcomes through real estate investing and ultimately in their life. And if you appreciate what we're doing, we would appreciate if you subscribe to the show, if you give us a rating, a review, share it with a friend because, there's a lot of people who are excited about our message. And I think that we really are making a big difference. And that's why we're spending time doing this. And that's why we're spending time with great folks like Dave to really share that message and to really, up-level each other as well as, raise the bar for someone else. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce you to Dave, and we'll get started here and have some fun. So Dave is the founder and CEO of Thompson Investing that helps passive investors with opportunities in value-add multifamily, self-storage, and mobile home parks. He syndicates and co-sponsors deals and currently has 30-plus deals across the United States. They have raised over $120 million from investors in the past 3.5 years since he started the business. And he's also active in the thought leadership arena with blogs, speaking events, and the author of of 2 books. And, that's where Dave and I really met, was kind of doing some speaking stuff up in Minnesota. And we had a lot of fun sharing the stage a couple times. So Dave, thank you so much again for being here. And I always think it's funny, we talk about these bios and we're always, we're really proud of our bios and our accomplishments, but I'd like to know more about Dave behind the bio. Like, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, I got into real estate, I think, kind of late compared to some of the peers I'm hanging around with, in the late 20s and early 30s. I of course, had bought a house before, but I really didn't get going into the real estate in a big way, maybe 2012, and that was just from some rental properties, single-family rental properties in the area, which is, I think, a way a lot of people get going. I spent about 20 years, Tyler, in the corporate world. Went to graduate school and got into high tech and worked for companies like AT&T and Dell, and that got me down here in Texas with Dell in '97. I fortunately landed in a town that's been on fire in real estate, Austin, Texas, and we knew it was a great town when we came here. It was a low cost of living and friendly environment, and tax friendly and business friendly. I'm like, if you can't make it here, you probably can't. I guess they say it in New York like that, but
it's like the opposite in New York, right?
Yeah. You can't make it here. And so, we did the corporate role for quite a while. I got some great responsibility, great travel, and it was a lot of fun. But it was getting a little long in the tooth. I probably discovered that. I discovered that a lot of times along the way in my career. But having a family and responsibilities, I probably, I definitely shied away from taking any kind of entrepreneurial leap early on, and it shouldn't prevent you from doing that. But we were doing well, making good income. My wife and I were pretty good savers and investors, so we didn't feel like the sudden need to alleviate from that or divert from that path any time. But in about 2012, we had a friend of ours that was into real estate. She was a broker agent and also was buying a lot of her own homes, and really said, you need to be doing some real estate. So finally, and I had one bad experience earlier on, and you had heard about this growing up about landlording's hard, and why would you want to do that kind of stuff. So that kind of put off the show for quite a while. But when we got involved in 2012, started buying up some single family. But about 2015, I realized a couple things were challenging. One is, we had a handful of homes. We're going in that direction, but it didn't scale well. I always needed to save a lot of money to go buy something else. I still needed my corporate job. I still needed my W-2. And I was like, well, wait, that's not, and the prices were going up, right? So every year, if I could buy a house or two, it's going to be more expensive. So kids were getting older. I had one go to UT here in Austin, and one was a senior in high school. And I was like, they're independent. It's a great time to maybe do something else. And we got some new management folks at work where I was at with a different direction. I'm like, this might be a good time. This might be a good time to change. We had enough going on, but I met a guy named Joe Fairless, and I think a lot of people know Joe in the community. I know you and I know Joe. And at that time, I met him at just the right time because I was looking to scale up. I was looking for a mentor. But the mentoring program I joined with him was more about teaching me how to go buy apartments. I did that with him for about 3 months. I was doing his training program, and I just chucked it after 3 months. I'm like, not that I wasn't learning anything, but I realized it was going to be an interesting business. It was going to be more complex than I thought. And it was going to involve partners and nothing like you can go do it on your own, right? But one thing that stuck in my mind was the word syndication, and using other people's money to help go, purchase these bigger assets. And I just decided one day to join him. I told him, I said, and I asked him how I could help him. You hear this a lot, how can I help you, to get something started without asking for much? And it was at that time that I decided I would just, hey, how can I help you? And he said, you're going to need to raise, I need some capital. I need some capital for this $8 million. I need $8 million for the, he goes, you're going to need to get some experience. I said, well, okay, I'll try this role. And that just took off, and I just kept doing more deals with him and then branched off. So, my background is fairly recent in real estate, really. I mean, buying something, it's in 2012, really, and then syndication and big time commercial investing probably started that in 2015, 16. We're here in 2019, and 3 years later, we're over 100 million in assets, and as far as what we've collected for investors and working with investors, and lots of 30 something syndications. So I guess I'll stop here, but the message is you can start late and you can do pretty dramatic things in a short period of time if you meet the right people, situations right. But I think most importantly that I was passionate enough. I already got bit with some of the real estate and what it could do for you. Right.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, you're a great storyteller. Sometimes it's like you got to pull it out of people. So I always appreciate when it's like, hey,
is
you
it
really
kind
of took us. Yeah, I think we're done now. So thanks for listening.
Yeah,
so
it was great. You guys have a good weekend. Okay.
No, but I really appreciate that because it really gives context in terms of your journey. I mean, a lot of people can relate to the whole journey of certainly spending a lot of time in the corporate world and doing it the right way. You're saving, you're building your wealth, and kind of, you're acquiring assets, whether it's single family homes or whatever it may be. A lot of people are in that space, and it's like, and then you can start to say, well, wait a minute, does this actually make sense?
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how I came across that myself when I was in the corporate world. I was like, man, wow, this actually isn't getting me completely where I want to be. And there's actually some different avenues. But kind of fast forwarding for you to the point where you met Joe and you started to learn about acquiring these assets as a syndicator, but then you found that, hey, you know what, there's actually this pretty significant role that I can play as a money raiser. And one of the things that struck me so quickly about you is like, you're the type of guy who can build relationships very quickly. You're very fun, but you're also very knowledgeable, and you're somebody that people have confidence in. So I'd be curious to know, what type of qualities do you think have been able to make you successful as a capital raiser, as a private equity provider for these deals?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think I can add some value to that too, because, there might be some misconception that I'm hanging out at yacht clubs and, I know all the money people and I'm connected that way, which I'm really not. I didn't grow up poor or anything, and certainly not that, but I mean, just, above middle class, maybe. But, really what I think was interesting is I grew up with 3 older sisters. I had no brothers. And I was the youngest. And so when I was a teenager, I distinctly remember that I was kind of shy, not overly shy, but kind of shy. And you wouldn't have marketing and definitely not a sales role would have been in my mind at all. And I really don't feel like it's a sales role I'm doing now, but definitely marketing or something like that. When I got out of, when I got through college, I bartended my way through school. As soon as I started bartending, at that time I was 18 years old in Arizona, so I was a pretty young person, right? But you really had to talk to people at the bar, right? And so that was going to directly affect your tips and your income. So I learned pretty quickly how to start conversations and just to develop rapport with people, which is really just asking questions about them, and not like interrogating them, but asking questions and trying to find some way or something that you can relate to. Hey, where you grew up. Oh yeah, I used to live there. Just anything that can start a conversation. So rapport building, I think, was something that I did throughout college and that particular job, and that was helpful. So anything where you're customer facing, I think you gotta think to yourself, those are skills you're building that are transferable and are important in this business. The second thing was a failure, Tyler. When I got out of school with my first degree was financial planning. Okay, now you can say financial planning, he likes investments, he likes finance. So yeah, I think you have something interested in investments, you like people. But when I came out, there was a recession. I couldn't get a job. I had a degree in finance and financial planning, and I was like, that's a very entrepreneurial job. So a life insurance company, a big life insurance company said that, hey, we'll pay you a salary, but it's a draw. You got to go out and sell whole life insurance and disability insurance. Hey, very important to someone's portfolio. I get it. But when you're 22 years old or 23 and you're thinking investments and something sexy, it's like, oh. And so I would cold call people. I hated it. After 6 months, I quit. I can't take it anymore. This is terrible. I'm going to go to graduate school. So I went that way. I went the corporate route, but I felt bad a little bit. I know internally I felt bad because man, I really do like finance. I like investments, and I'm giving that up. I'm just going to go the corporate route. Not that I could have done that, which I actually had a stint managing money at Lucent Technology. But along the way, I'm like, I put those things together. And then later in life, I got to put this on the shelf. And then later in life, when I started doing the capital raising, I realized, it wasn't really about selling. In fact, if I had selling skills or that background, maybe I'm going to come across as not genuine. I don't know. But people always say, you seem so genuine. You seem knowledgeable. You're just asking, I'm asking you questions. You're answering the questions I have. You're offering up things that I didn't think about. And if the person's ready to go, great. I'll show you how to get in. If it's not a big deal. I was just trying to develop relationships with you and educate you. So when I look back at my life, I never gave up completely on those skills. But when people ask me, well, how are you so successful raising capital? I'm like, I think I married up the things that I really like to do. I like talking to people. I like educating people. I had a family that I guess of teachers. All my sisters teach in some capacity. But I think that's it. We're not here to the deals are nice. The deals are good. People just aren't exposed to these opportunities because we're so marketed to death for stocks and bonds and these types of things. But no one really educates you that you can invest in apartments or self-storage or mobile home parks how do you even think about investing in that? What is that? Who invests in that? And so we're here to bridge that gap, So I guess that, having some failures, but knowing that passion, if you really like something, you're going to come back to it. And I think maybe I gave up too early on it. I just took a route and then I got married, had kids. And I was like, this is a comfortable route. And if I look back, I did it 20 years. I think I did it. I never regret stuff, but I'm like, man, I think maybe a little earlier I could have cut out. But I wasn't at that time in my life thinking about syndication. I wasn't thinking about mentors that could help me in that space. I wasn't, 2012, I was just starting to get into investing, right? So all things happen for a reason, I suppose. But, at the end of the day, I would take an inventory of your skills and interests and passions and kind of think about, what can you weave together around that? And if you start doing something, you'll know it. Naturally, when I started working in this area, I didn't know I was going to be any good at it. It was just like natural. I'd get up and I was, I kept at it all day and in the evenings. And my wife would look at me like, what's wrong with you? You never did that in the corporate world as much. It's like, well, I worked hard. I was a good employee. But when you have your own business and you realize that you're doing something that's not work to you, like you're in the flow, like Tyler, right? You're doing something, might be the podcast. It might be something that you really love, real estate, might be something. But if you're in the flow, right? Oh, yeah. You could go on. You could just keep going. Someone has to pull you out and stop you. Like, hey, time to go to bed.
Well, I get in the flow when I think of, just the limitless opportunities, there's so many opportunities out there for us as real estate practitioners or people who are just committed to raising the bar and drawing that line in the sand and saying, look, I'm not going to live this ordinary life. When I think of that, that's when I get in the flow. And of course I have certain passions and skills that transcend others, but I love the thought of, developing, taking inventory of your own skills and following those passions and then not giving up on it and saying, look, it's never too late for me to take that route. And I also love the mindset shift that you mentioned there. It's like, hey, it's not sales, it's actually education and access to opportunities. You know, it's like, hey, I'm not pushing anything on you if you don't want to be a part of this. Of course, that's totally your call, but you're providing these opportunities. You're sort of connecting folks to what you would also agree is a better opportunity. And you probably say, hey, look, you know, this is a long-term relationship, and, you know, I'd love for you to be successful in it. And if you don't feel like you're going to be successful in it, please, you know, don't do it, you know, but
that's right.
I really like that. You know, it's a quick shift, you know?
Yeah. And it's a huge shift, because for like 20 years, I wouldn't, if you would have told me, hey, good day, this is a market. If Joe would have told me this, you're going to go market and sell my deal, I probably would just say that, okay, maybe this isn't for me either. You never said that. In fact, one thing we will talk about maybe later, we can just bring it up now, is the thought of me, you know, how do I get these people to come in? I mean, okay, you like talking to people, you like educating, but how do you get in front of them? You know, how does all that work? And one thing that he taught me early on, and it's huge for me now, I mean, 85%, I think that's kind of where it comes out, of every raise for a deal, of all the people I'm talking about and getting in the deal, those are return investors, referrals. Those are the greatest ones, because they're already going to come at you like, hey, just tell me, I like the deal. Here's what I want to invest. You don't even have to explain it to them half the time. Those 15% is really where we work. The 15% is where we're working, and what that work is really is what you're doing, Tyler. You're providing a format for your listeners to learn. So that could be podcasting. It could be, I started writing blogs. My blogs ended up creating a couple of books, because you had so many blogs. Like, oh, that's a natural chapter. That's a chapter. That's logical. Like, put something together. And so, you know, there's a variety of ways to get your message out there. And then people come to your website. You're attracting people. I'm not out there banging on doors. It could be a conference. We spoke together in Minneapolis, right? Got some people that were interested in talking to us about investing there, or, you know, how we can help them. You're also sharing information, how you can help them with their careers. But, you know, by and large, that was also, in fact, someone told me, some lady who raised a $3 billion. Like, oh, wow. She's working she's not working. Well, she's probably working like REITs and, you know, the big institutional stuff, but that's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I didn't attend her conference, but someone who went there that knew, told me about it. She says the first thing she said is, she said it was a capital raising seminar. And she said, you know, do you know what the holy grail is to raising capital? And you know, how many people would write a blog? And so it came out like 10% even knew what thought leadership was. And she says, to me, that's the holy grail of capital raising. And I absolutely agree with it. Outside of your return investors and referrals, which is to me the best, the 15%, that new people that keep coming through the door and keeping I used to think about it as a pond. You know, it's a stagnant pond. If no one's coming in, nothing's getting out, it's just going to stagnate. But if you got some fresh stuff coming in, you know, so that's what I feel that we always have to do. And that's probably where I spend, you know, a considerable point of my energy, is making sure I get content out on a regular, consistent basis in some form of, and that could be like on Bigger Pockets. I'll go into apartment forums and just, you know, answer questions, and people see you as credible. Either you're providing a forum like your podcast to have good guests on, or you're sharing good information yourself, but that's huge. That's huge. And that's not, I don't feel like you're selling, right? You're not selling. You're just providing a forum, a format for a healthy exchange of views and information that you can take as great, or, hey, that's not something that's important to me. But that's huge. That's the huge part of that.
I like the whole thought process of 85-15, you know, that can be applied to almost probably any business. I mean, especially, you know, if you're looking for deals, I mean, probably 85% of the deals you're going to find are going to be referral or repeat, you know, sort of relationships. But if you can really spend your time focusing on, hey, well, where's that 15% of new business coming from? You know, I think that's your greatest opportunity. But what a great thought nugget there. So I want to transition, and actually I want to talk a little bit about, you know, just you as a person. I'm curious to know, was there a moment in your life that you said, hey, you know what, I'm not going to live this average life. I plan on doing great things and living a life of abundance and outside of the norm, or was it more of a process for you? Did it take the 20 years of going through the corporate route to get there, or how did that work for you?
Well, I don't think when I first joined some of these companies in the heyday of .com and what was going on in the stock options and all that stuff, I didn't think we were going to be doing as long as we would. And then we hit 2000, everything stagnated. Nothing really happened for a decade. So that was a long decade. I think for me it was more of a process and time. I was pretty sensitive to maybe I wasn't around a lot of people doing entrepreneurial things, and I think I was more around the mindset of, if I was going to work a couple more years and then I wanted the kids I wanted to pay for their college and get all that set and make sure everything was good. So I just didn't want to pull the plug in the middle of something. So I was not that kind of risk taker. And like I said, we were making a good income. We were good savers and good investors along the way. So we were just focused on when is that point going to be where we could maybe go part-time. There was some discussion and even in the corporate world, people trying to do these part-time roles, working out of the house. And we certainly moved towards working out of the house a little bit, which is kind of nice, but it's more flexibility. I absolutely, it's funny. I feel like I'm working harder than I ever did. However, I'm having more fun and I have just so much more control of my time. Like I do not meet people. If it's 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, that's my coffee meetup times in Austin, Texas, because traffic's not very good here in the morning or evening. So that's my schedule. I'll tell people there's 10 or 2. Now phone calls I can take throughout different times. My wife and I just got back from Abu Dhabi and Dubai a whole week. A month before that we were in Iceland, and I have deals going on. I'm working deals, but my role is not intense. I mean, it's not really that intense for a long time. It might be, if I'm capital raising, I can literally raise the amount I need maybe in a weekend or 1 week, and then the rest of it's just kind of a maintenance. It's not that's another thing I like about it. People have asked me, hey, why don't you just be an operator? I'm like, well, I'm on the operational team. I have a role. I just don't want to be every day working with the property. That's not me. That's a job. Now they're getting paid maybe a little bit more, and great, it's fantastic. I don't want a job. I left the corporate world not to have a job. I wanted something kind of part-time. It's actually, I spend a lot more time in it, but it's like I said, I'm having fun. And it's given me opportunities to, be with my family when I need to, take travel trips, see parents, whatever I need to do anytime I want to do it. I don't have to ask anybody, can I take time off? I love that. I don't have to ask anybody. Awesome. I don't have to, it's just a really flexible schedule. And that's probably more worth it to be me than, how big the thing is going to get. I'm not really at this point in the career after 3.5 years, I'm not overly bent on being the biggest and baddest in my category. It's not. I'm not, we put up here, like you asked me, my bio, and it's like, okay, I got 6,000 units, or that is not, every year, that's not my goal. I don't even have goals, really. I mean, someone asked me about that on a show, and I don't want to sound like but there's a lot of focus on goals. Now, here's my take on it. My life has evolved with some kind of mental aspect of where I kind of want this thing to go, and certainly a quarter or two in advance, maybe I want to try this, or maybe I want to try this. I'm always thinking about the business. But I don't sit down and say, in 12 months from now, I want to have, X amount of units. And because it's like, I don't want someone to tell me the end of a movie. I want somebody to tell me the end of a book. I feel like the more structured I am, then it's taking the fun out of life. I feel like it's too structured. So I'm kind of semi-structured. I've got some things I'm focusing on. I know the next, 6-12 months, here's generally what I would like to be doing. Maybe I want to start a podcast, Tyler. But I don't have the exact day, all those steps. And I know if I wanted to do it, I'll probably talk to you. I'll probably talk to two or three other people, and probably in a month or two, I could have something up and running. And it's something in my mind. I'm thinking about that, but I'm not like getting up every morning and saying, here's the day. And some people are different, but I've found that if I'm a little bit more relaxed about it, it's a little bit more fun and interesting. I don't want to know the end of the story. I want to know that it's evolving. I'm growing. There are some metrics around what I'm doing. Hey, we got so many investors now. The portal's this. I have 110 million in investor capital. That's all good stuff for the show. Otherwise, why you have me on the show? Well, because the guy's got these. Look what he's done. Yeah, you have to have some measurements, but that's not what's driving me really. It's more like the lifestyle.
Are you someone who is looking to seriously elevate your life this year? I mean, now, this year, 2020. because I want to let you know that I am currently opening up a few coaching slots for people like you who want to close the gap from where you are to where you want to be. And I want to invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. Again, that's coachwithtyler.com. I have to tell you, this is not for everyone. This is only for those who are defiantly committed, those who are decisive, those who are coachable, those who are resourceful. They're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to sacrifice time, energy, and invest resources into themselves to get to where they want to be, to live life at the highest level, and to elevate to a life without limits, exactly what we talk about on this show. If that is you, I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. Again, that's coachwithtyler.com. Yeah.
Live the lifestyle.
Well, that's what it's all about. I do think that's actually one of the big reasons why I started this show, is because it is about the lifestyle. It's about who you become. It's about, what you create, what you give back. And one thing that I've had a shift on goals recently is about, you don't necessarily always have to be so overly structured with goals. It really is about who you become. It's about the identity that you cultivate. It's about, like I read Atomic Habits, and I thought it was a super approachable book.
I just got done reading that book. I was going to share that with you. That's great.
Were you?
James Kramer, right? Or,
Clear.
What's his
James
name? Clear. Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was so good because it's an extremely approachable book, very basic, but also profound in that way. It was like, hey, I'm voting for, this quality of this identity that I believe that I am. And I'm stepping into the identity of a healthy person, or a giving person, or, someone who helps other people invest in real estate or whatever it may be, instead of just saying, hey, I must acquire 1,000 units by 10, 17, 20, what I mean? So
it's habits, right? Those are habits versus just the objective, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so I think it's
book.
It is. And it actually opened my mind to goals as well. So I really appreciate the fact that you shared that. And also I really liked your thought there on being relaxed when you think about what it is that you want to accomplish, whether it is a truly specific structured goal, or if that's not your style, if you're like Dave, it's like, hey, think about it in a relaxed fashion and just know that it's inevitable. If you have intentions for what you want in your life, for what you want your lifestyle to be, it will be created as long as you're committed, you're consistent, and obviously you're responsible. I mean, certainly can't have this great lifestyle and just let it all go and just think, everything's going to be okay. But I really like those thoughts.
And again, we listened to the customer. Like we one of the goals we had wasn't even a goal. I just kind of had it in my mind that we need to have something to organize the investments, like a portal for the investors. And so we started thinking about that and talking to people, and finally, we got that. So I think listening to your whoever your clients or your customers are, they'll probably tell you what you should be focused on. That's a little interesting one. Yeah.
No doubt about that. So tell me about, what do you, so obviously you've said no to a lot of things. I like your thought about, hey, look, I do coffee meetings at 10 and 2 because of the lifestyle that you're trying to create. But what else? I mean, what kind of things do you typically say no to, or do you have a process of evaluating certain things and making those type of decisions to protect your own time?
Sure. Well, we have a reputation for raising capital, so we do have a lot of people that want to share us their deals. And say, hey, what do you think? And one of the things I think if you develop some structure on it like this is like, you never want to be rude to anybody. Hey, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. But, maybe it's a bad time for you to evaluate, or it's most of the time it takes a lot of energy to evaluate who. I got to evaluate you. You're coming to me. I don't really know you. I got to evaluate your market. I don't know your market.
Right.
I got to evaluate your deal, maybe a niche that I don't. So it would be, I kind of just had that discussion with them. I says, really what I look for is long-term partnerships. I'm in these spaces. I have these partners. I tend to deal after deal with them because they're in certain markets that they know. Their criteria doesn't change too much. It helps my decision-making. I can make decisions quicker. I can meet them at the property. I don't have to do a lot of vetting of you, the market, and the deal. It's too much energy. I don't have a lot of time for that. Now, it doesn't mean I'll never do that. I may enter another niche that I like, but it's going to be slower and methodical. I'll probably start blogging about it in advance, so my investors don't think that I just got up one day and decided I want to go, invest in tiddlywinks or something. I think it's important for your investors to know that Dave's pretty well. I have this book, right? Riches and Niches we'll talk about maybe at the end, but it talks about why we're in the 3 niches. Well, there's good research around. These are the 3 top commercial performing real estate niches over the last 25 years. This is how they held up. They were the top 3 that held up in the downturns. They do good now, and so it would be crazy. I mean, now I do have a deal out there right now. It's totally different from real estate, but I was very purposeful when I put that out. I said, this may not be for everybody on my distribution. This may be for someone who's got an appetite for something a little bit different. That's fine. But again, that was well researched. It's with a partner that I already deals with. So it's not like you have to learn about a new partner, a new market, a new that. But it was strange enough for people to, a lot of interest, but people are cautious. So I'm aware. I get feedback on that. I'm like, okay, well, I think I have no problem going that direction. But that's exactly the feedback I thought would happen. Like it's, I don't, if I had all my investors just go that direction, like, now I'm thinking, oh, you guys, I want you to think, okay, I want you to think. Don't follow Dave. I want you to think.
It's going to work for everybody here.
Yeah, right. I get your feedback too. But that would be it. I think it's easy to get excited when things are going well, and then everything becomes an opportunity. And you hear that a lot too. Kind of stay focused on what you're really good at. If you want to go in another direction, make sure it's well thought out. Make sure it's well messaged, especially if you have an investor base, and so they don't think you're just, you're not a person to be trusted with what you're telling me in a book. And why you focus on these markets doesn't mean I couldn't invest in something else. Oftentimes, if I invest in something else that's different, it will be with my own personal capital first too. Like I want to see in a small amount. Like I want to see. I invested in a hemp farm. I may invest in something else over here, like a tort fund. I mean, just different things. But I'm interested in learning the process and seeing if it would be something down the road my investors may be involved with. But it's going to be after I've got some exposure to it. And then I may not, because I'm like, that's too bounces around. There's too many. The weather issues affects crops. I didn't even think about. Well, I thought about that, but it can really devastate the crop. No, I don't want it. It pays no dividend. Yeah.
Well, I think I really like the distinction of sort of making your decisions based on those long-term partnerships. It's like, hey, if I'm going to look at this opportunity, I do have sort of these these established relationships that I really trust these people. And I think it's a great distinction for folks who are maybe even trying to build a relationship with someone like yourself, is to say, you know what, you should be focusing on the long-term relationship before you are trying to convert on a business opportunity. It's like, just develop that trust and develop that, the true care with each other before you're trying to capitalize on a relationship. And that's something that I really keep going back to, is like, just deposit into your relationships and don't expect anything in return. If something comes, that's amazing, but don't expect it,
That's a great point. There is a legal reason, we call it the cooling off period, but it's a smart way to do business in general, because the problem with the transactional deal, you get the email. Here's the transaction. I don't even know who you are and how you came to me.
Right.
Would you evaluate my deal, or can you get some time? It's too emotional. When you have a deal in front of you, you got to get the deal done, or you want to get the deal done. Everything goes out the window. You're emotional. Just like when you meet someone in a restaurant, if you're single, you're not really thinking about, does this person make sense with you, right? It's just crazy. So I think, to me, it's like that too. It's a little bit of an affront. It's a little bit emotional, and I would rather just, if I meet somebody in a multifamily meetup situation or someone, we're just talking real estate, and it comes along, hey, Dave, you syndicate. Someone told me you syndicate. Do you have any deals? Let's do this. Let's slow it down. Let's slow it down. Let me get your business card. I'll send you an overview email, what we do and what we're about. And then if you like that, let's book some time. That would be one step. Maybe a week or two later, I get a call with them. I get to learn about them, what experiences they have, where they're from, what their job is. They have family, kids. What are their goals? 30 minutes. And then I learn a lot about them. I'm an accredited investor. I've done one syndication deal. I love syndication. I want to do more deals. I really like apartments. I'm living in Texas, so maybe I don't know. But I can learn a lot. And then what I would do is, even if I had a live deal, legally, I can't show it to them, and I won't, because it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. I will just say, listen, let me send you a closed deal in the market that I think that, you're living in Dallas. I got a closed market deal in Dallas we did about 3 months ago. Let me send that to you. Look at that. And if you have any questions, I'll circle back with you in 7-10 days. I know it sounds like a lot of touch points, but that's the way to do business. I'm developing a relationship multiple times. I met them at a meeting. I sent them my introduction. They liked it. This kind of fits them. They sent me a call. We had a call. Then I sent them something else. And That would be an ideal situation. Maybe 30 days later, this is the cooling off. It's now you're cooled off. There's no emotion. It's like, I'm now making logical decisions. I like Dave. He looks like he's got good deal flow. He looks like he's dealing with partners he's vetted. He's investing in his own deal. I learned that he invested in his own deal. He goes to every site. He walks the property with the operator. He looks at the comps. The guy answers every one of my questions. So I'm building trust too with them. And they're kind of like, this guy understands what's going on. That can't happen in a email. Here's my deal. Here's who I'm like, what do
wow.
almost laugh at those. I don't even know where to start. Sometimes I don't answer them. I'll be honest. I just like it maybe too many of them, but I'm like, I just try to understand. I don't even know where they're coming from. Like, how do you come to me? Like, so it's like, is this like a spam mail? Like, I don't even, like, it's not even an introduction. Hey, I met Tyler and he said, you're doing this. That's a good try. That's a good start, but I don't even know. Some people just show up.
Dave, you're talking about hard work here, man. This is not quick. I mean, come on. You can't just click a few buttons and it's done. I mean,
and I've been there. I've been there. I have a deal and I need 500,000. It closes in 2 weeks. And my biggest investor just decided he wasn't going to get liquid in time. And I've been there. I know, but it's, you can't be in an emotional state, because then I start selling. Then I'll start selling like I'm selling. Yeah. And that I know exactly what happens. It's just, you're just gonna be like, wait a second. And it's not hardcore. It's just, you could just pick up on words like, I'm in a hurry. I got to get this done, and I just need the capital.
Right.
Give me the questions later after we close.
You're just trying to educate quicker, right?
Yeah. And it's just speed the process up. So the best time to network is between deals, really. That would be ideal.
Tell me about a failure. I mean, has there been any substantial failures that you've experienced along the way here?
Yeah, the first year in the syndication business, I didn't make any money, and you're like, well, how did that happen? It seemed like you got out of the gate fast, which I did. I did 3 or 4 deals. The very first deal I worked on with the operator, I got caught up in a phishing scheme, these online things, and he had sent me an email with the wiring instructions. I'd sent it to my 13 investors, my first $1 million raise. And we've changed all these processes since. This is the first one. He's on Gmail. I'm on Yahoo. We don't even have my office. I don't even have anything, set up to do an extra screen. Like Office 365 does a pretty good job. And then he sends me an email. It looked like it came from him. And someone intercepted that. And later on, I looked at it. There was a letter transposed, kind of a phishing scheme. Someone was following us, and his real email instructions went into my junk folder. I never saw it. I saw this bogus email with bogus wiring instructions. Emailed that to my 13 investors. Fortunately or unfortunately, I say fortunately now. At the time, it was unfortunate. 4 of those people had already wired the money to the account and was gone. $225,000. So I worked with first of all, I worked in corporate American operations, so I knew not to panic. But I remember exactly in my house where I was standing, almost what I was wearing. I just remember like that day, like when Elvis died for me, like, well, I remember I was, you just remember certain things in your life, like
guaranteed
where you were. And that one I'll never forget. Fortunately, I emailed the other 9 investors and said, hey, we have some new information. So they never knew anything. The 4 investors, I immediately said, we're covering you. Do not worry about it. And they wanted to know about the process and how it all happened. Of course, we'll get that information to you. We did end up talking to the FBI. I learned a lot about this process, but there is no FDIC protection for wire fraud or wire, right? And it kills you. But what ended up happening, we've changed the processes since. I don't even handle that anymore. It's we're all doing it on DocuSign. We're doing everything. So I coach people today, like, you need to understand a little bit about the back end. I never want this happening. It happens a lot with title companies and things like that. And that's a lot of money. But anyway, so $225,000 came out of our pocket. And the good news story is this: one, we got really good at how not to have that happen again. I've been on podcasts before telling people about it, how to do it right. And then the third thing is that investment we've since sold in 2 years, 52% return. All those 4 investors, everybody made money. 3 of those 4 investors have invested again with us, and one, I think, just because the situation wasn't there. So several of those investors, those 3 investors, multiple deals. So you can have a failure and it could be pretty devastating. And I never thought once about quitting. Never. People ask me like, man, if I lost $225,000 my first, like I'm going backwards here. I'm like,
right.
Never thought about that. I was upset. I thought we should have had a better corporate processes and controls in place. Why am I the guinea? But it is what it was. We covered the investor. We took care of the investor first. That's the number one thing. Take care of the customer. We'll figure out on the back end. And my earnings, over the next 2 or 3 deals, we both, the operator and I, split that, and then we kind of came whole after about 3 deals. But my first year, I really didn't make any money in the deal. But it never dawned on me. I was adding investors every deal, and I was growing those investors, and they're in good deals. We've had 2 of those 3 that first year closed for good returns. And so, yeah, I mean, you can have some bad stuff happen, and that was the worst thing that happened. And that was the first deal, my first one, my first deal. And I almost got, I was like, I would have knocked a lot of people out of the park. I guess the good news was, what if it was 13 investors and $1 million? I don't know if we would have been able to do it.
Right.
We would have had to figure something out. That would have been a big recovery. So,
do you think that there was like some reason that this happened to you, or I mean, is there something that you gleaned from this that that really kind of set you up for a later success, or is it just like, you know what, it is what it is. These kind of things happen. I'm just curious. I didn't know if you've had any sort of thought process on this since.
I think I just knew I was in my well, I'd only done 1 deal, so I didn't know I was in my element. When Joe said, we started out at a $500,000 target, got to $1 million. And I remember when Joe said, that's phenomenal. Like, I don't have anybody I work with. And he hadn't been doing it a long time. But I can tell you, I coach people today, and not to boast or anything, but I didn't know at the time how significant it was. It's hard to raise $1 million on your first try, or even after several tries. And some people never get to $1 million. I think it's coachable to get people there at some point, but thought leadership, all the things we talked about. I think when I look back on that, I just must have really been in love with what I was doing. I must have really found this could be something really cool. And I knew that that mistake was correctable. It wasn't going to be like, that mistake could happen anytime. And I knew that we did some pretty stupid things. And when I look back on it, it's only, 3 or 4 things could have been prevented. Yeah, I think I was just in my calling. When you're in your calling, I mean, I don't know, whatever, you repair motorcycles and you love it. Whatever you do, if you're in your element and something really bad happens, you don't think about quitting. You just don't. It's just never even dawned on me. I think that's the powerful message. I would have thrown, I think a lot of people just would have just said, this is not worth it. I'm not going to handle people's money. Forget that. There's no way around it. I never thought about that. I feel really bad for my investors. I feel bad about it happened to them, but you're going to be whole. Okay. And fortunately the deal worked out. The deals have done well. I haven't had any deals that have blown up yet, knock on wood. I mean, you were asking me what would be, I know we're going to have some deals that are going to be challenging, of course. But as long as we can work our way out of them, I think that's good.
Yeah. I think there's so much wisdom though in the fact that it's like, okay, it happened. A bad problem happened. Now here's how we're going to deal with it. It's the immediate, like, even as you were telling that story, you're like, okay, we're going to fix it. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to cover this. It's all good. And I mean, I think that's the mentality you got to have. It's like, expect that problems will happen. It's not all going to be rosy. It's not all going to sound exactly like it does on a podcast. It's not all going to be exactly what you read in a book, and you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get bloodied. But, there's a solution for everything. And one thing that really sticks out to me is, like, when a problem happens, it's testing your commitment, because you said you wanted an uncommon life. You said you wanted something great. Yeah. But now you're being tested. Do you really want it? Now you got to keep going through this. So I think it's really cool, because when you told that story, it was almost like exactly how you acted, where it was like, hey, look, it is what it is. Now let's just solve it. Now, not that it was easy by any means.
I was reading, we'll get to this, maybe there's a book called The Second Mountain. We both like books. Yep. The first mountain you're climbing is a job. And then the second mountain is kind of your vocation, your calling, what you should be doing. And a job, I think some of the difficulties you find is, okay, now it's a job. Oh, that happened. It's a terrible job. Now this job's getting worse. I really hate this job. When it's a vocation, it doesn't really, you want to go after challenge. First of all, you want challenges and, the give back now. Now you're getting into the situation where you made your money, you got your respect or whatever you want in that first mountain. But now the second mountain is about community. It's about family. It's about giving back. And then those kind of vocation, those aspirational things, and you want to be striving. You do want to be striving. We talk maybe the goals, whatever works for you, but you should be striving and challenging. I think the human dimension is you can't wake up. Listen, right now I could quit, probably not do another syndication, and maybe not have to worry too much about money for a while. Right. But I think, what do I do? I don't know what I do. So you want to be doing something, and if it comes to the point where it's not fun anymore, then go find another vocation. But you need to be doing some things that really energize you and are really passionate about, and it takes a while to find that. It took me a while to kind of find the intersections of several disciplines to say, gosh, who knows? When I did the Briggs-Stratton test, what is it? Briggs-Myers test?
Myers-Briggs.
Time ago, Brian Myers-Briggs. I look at all these things and like I married 4 or 5 things together to choose a major. And then so there's so many pieces of the puzzle. That puzzle could fit in different ways and different dimensions. And capital raising was never one of the career choices when I took that test. But maybe it would. Maybe they marrying up some skills that you didn't even know there was there was a calling out there for you, but
I think you just follow that curiosity, right? You just continue to try and keep striving and challenging yourself, like you're talking about. I read a book actually earlier this year called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, I believe his name is. And what he talks about is that humans are goal-seeking mechanisms. We talked about goals differently earlier in terms of, it's kind of about your identity, but it's about striving towards something, right?
Yeah.
If you're not striving towards something, then you don't feel that purpose, and you don't really thrive as a human being.
It can't be easy, right? I mean, it's got to be. You got to have some challenges. You got to have some failures. You got to
push your limits.
Yeah.
Raise the bar. That's why we always say, how are we raising the bar and elevate? So, man, you actually gave me a perfect transition now into our kind of what I call our rapid fire section. I call it the rare air questionnaire, and it's so perfect because you're talking about 2 mountains. And really what this is, it's about us scaling the mountaintop. We're scaling the mountaintop, and we're looking for that other mountaintop we're going to continue to climb. There's always another mountaintop for us. And, the whole purpose behind Elevate is that, when it got challenging, when the wire fraud happened, when something knocked us down, we didn't give up. We continued to scale that mountain. So I've got a few questions in here, and I'd be curious to know for you. We already talked about one of your favorite books there. I'm curious to know, what's the most impactful book that you've read otherwise?
On the real estate side, there was a couple books. One was the Cash Flow Quadrant.
Yep.
This Kiyosaki. So the Rich Dad Poor Dad, I came back later to read. The first one I read a long time ago was Cash Flow Quadrant, but it was that really talked about leveraging your time and getting into something that you get there a lot faster. That was the good one. There was a guy named Keller. Keller Williams. Yeah, Gary Keller Williams. The multimillionaire real estate investor. I think that's what it's called. I read that one. I liked that one a lot. It started really, and he's here in Austin, and that resonated with me really well. I think I started reading that in the early 2010, right when I started the single family homes. And then I realized he has a section there about, scale and all that kind of stuff. I started thinking, I can't have this corporate job for 40 years just to buy 1 or 2 houses. How am I going to get this thing? And as a finance guy, I was kind of not really open and privy to, syndication and what that meant. When I found about that, I'm like, man, because when I meet the Joes of the world, these guys are like I said, they were young kids, to me, early 30s, how are they taking down a 320 unit apartment that's, worth $20 million and they're going to go get $8 million. I was like, I'm trying to find go to buy a single family home worth maybe $2. How they do that? And once I understood the formula and understood that there was a lot of demand for those types of assets, and that I could play a role in bringing that capital to them, and it just kind of blows me away. I mean, today we'll raise a good chunk of capital for their deals and a bunch of other deals, and I feel like we're important. We're important to getting that done.
Yeah. Well, I love books because they can spark your ideas like that, you may have planted the seed, 5 years before you really started to scale, but your first thought about scale was planted in the appendix of that book, or, I'm kind of kidding, to a certain degree, but it's so interesting how that happens. I mean, that's been my experience 100%. So that's why I always ask about books, man.
Yeah. I think books and people and, the universal mind or whatever, to get too cosmic here, but it's just, if you start thinking about something, all of a sudden, remember the old analogy they always use, if you go out and buy a new car and you all of a sudden you start seeing your car everywhere.
Activator. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there is a thing about, I'm not saying not goals, because I think that activates that. Like the clearer
Sure.
you are about kind of what you want to do, but get overly structured. But you got to have something in mind, and then you will start seeing books or podcasts or TV shows or a movie that resonates with you, or someone comes into your. My favorite thing is someone comes into my life. I don't meet them somewhere, and I'm like, you're the person. Whether or not this happens, like the other day, some investor of mine went to meet this guy who's in the title company business, and he's doing closing for all these big construction deals here in Austin, right? That guy is very entrepreneurial. He told me he set up his title company. I get paid on commission. Totally different concept. So he's out there talking to all the big developers in town, trying to get them to close the deals with him. And so he's all connected. So he has a coffee with me. I'm unassuming. I'm just thinking, this guy, I'm just talking to this guy. I had no idea about this guy. And he goes, do you know this guy? And his name was Robert Lee. And he ends up being a pretty big developer here in Austin. And he's building attainable housing, like apartments and condos. I'm like, we do affordable housing, attainable. I'd like to meet him. Anyway, had lunch with him. Reached out, had lunch with him. He's big time here in town. Nice guy. We hit it off. I'm like, the lunch hour is supposed to be an hour with his wife. Went 2 hours.
That's fun.
And whether I do anything with him or not, I was like, I just wanted to be around him, and we hit it off. I was like, I just want to hang in your circle, because he just seemed like he was just a wealth of information. We thought about a lot of things. He's lived here in Austin a long time. We had a lot of commonalities, and it may not be anything, but it was just. When you meet a person like that, all of a sudden it's a 2-hour show, or it's supposed to be an hour show. My first podcast interview, it ended up being 2 hours. We had to break it up in 2 hours. And then Joe said, my partner goes, Dave, that's go get a transcript of that. I'm like, why the heck would anybody want to read 29 pages of a 2-hour show?
Right.
He goes, no. That's a book. I'm like, what do you mean it's a book? Yeah. If you put 5x7, put some photos in there, break it up in paragraph, a little bigger font, you got a whole book. And he was right. That's my first book on my website, how to raise $1 million in 2 weeks, or how I raised $1 million in 2 weeks. My first book, it's on my website, ebook. And that was like, I've always kind of wanted to do a book. And then it was just like, it's just kind of, I don't know.
You just planted a seed in my mind now. I love it. Well, and I've actually been, reading recently about like synchronicity and, how you can really kind of, you can actually create things just by, some people may say it's very woo-woo and all this, but you can really manifest your reality, and you can sort of create the relationship you want and have these hours long conversations, while you're really just intending to, sit for a few minutes. And it's like, oh my gosh, we really hit it off. I didn't know how this happened, but it's about those intentions. It's about living in a relaxed state and, not overly stressing yourself, doing what you care, doing what you love, so man, it's so in line with me. I love that so much.
That's cool. That's good stuff.
So what's the biggest way that you elevate your life on a daily basis?
Well, you were talking about atomic habits. That's important. I know that I need to have some structure when I wake up, and have some structure. It always happens. Not every day. It's not always happening that way. There's stuff going on. Got to do something with my dog. Whatever. There's something going on that can knock you out. But I find if I can get a productive time, it could be exercising, it could be stretching, it could be getting your mind right, it could be planning, it could be the worst thing happens to me is I'll get up and I start answering emails. And all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. Then it's 10 o'clock and someone else is dictating your day. Then all of a sudden you start your meetings and phone calls come in, and all of a sudden it's later in the afternoon when you should have worked out. Now you're kind of tired. You're like, maybe do I really want to hit to the gym? And then, the evening seems to be more disruptive. So I guess in my life I've learned I love the morning time. I love when it's quiet and I get a coffee and I can really kind of plug away. And the more times I get like that, and kind of, I'll get up, we're talking about the second mountain. I'm going to read a chapter. I want to get up and I read a chapter before I read an email. I'm going to do something for me. I may put on some soft music and do some light stretching exercises, and then I grab my coffee and I read my chapter book. Have something for yourself. doing something in the first part of the day for yourself, having a good breakfast, whatever that routine is. It doesn't have to be 10 routines. Don't go crazy, but get a couple routines. And I have a much more better day when I know I've done these things for myself.
Yeah.
If I look back on the days that I don't think I was very productive, or I'm like, I didn't exercise, I didn't read, I was just doing emails all day, and I didn't get to my most important thing. And there's another book. It's going to pop up on my book stand. Oh, there is one last book I think is awesome. A guy named Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work. Deep Work.
Yep.
This guy did amazing things in a short period of time. And what he did was he basically blocked out the morning. He was trying to block out like 8 to 11. And that was his time every day. And he even had time at the end of the day to listen to a baseball game on the radio, or just do some crazy stuff that was just so like, why would he? He's got all this busy schedule, but he's got time to do all that stuff because he took care of his most important stuff in the morning. He just blocked it out. There's Hal Enrod. There's lots of people that have those kind of concepts, but to elevate your game, if you really are serious about it, I think you really got to take control of some amount of your time every day. The best is probably in the morning, or find out in your life where you don't have a lot of distractions, of family or stuff that could happen, because otherwise you may have a series of days or weeks where you're not getting anything really done. You're, like you said, you're on the defense. I've just been answering emails. I've been scheduling stuff. I feel like I'm being productive, but I'm not taking that the 20% of the stuff that creates 80% of my results, the deep work. Just find out what's the deep work. If you looked at your whole year and you said, if I could just accomplish these two things, okay, well, that's what you should be doing every day for an hour or two, just doing that, right? Because whatever happens after that, that's fine. You got that taken care of. It just like, you're not going to beat yourself up. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what you're talking about is prioritizing your own growth as far as I'm concerned. It's like prioritize your own life, really. Because if you don't, no one else is going to do that for you. Everyone else is going to take their own priority and put it to the top of your list if you don't block that off yourself.
Yeah, so. That's huge. And I guess the last thing we didn't talk much about, but I think is core to anything that I do is partner with experts. So I've only got so far with partnering with experts. So in anything that you want to do, there's experts that have already done it. And you can get there so much faster. Like if I met Joe and said, Joe, your training program is great. I'm going to go out and find a couple partners, maybe some friends of mine have a little money. We're going to go do an apartment. I mean, we didn't analyze our skill sets. We'd be right for each other there. And I made a decision to just join him. I'm like, this looks quite daunting for me to do it by myself. My investors, I don't want to fail my first deal. The lenders are going to look like I'm, like, have you done a deal before? Why don't I just join someone who's done it? He's got all the credibility. He had that many apartments. Maybe I had 2 or 3 under his belt. Let's just join and work with him. That got me, and they ended up doing so many deals. That got me fast out of the gate versus trying to do it on my own and thinking that, I can just learn it out of a book or, something like that.
I mean, I heard something recently. It was like, you've got to embrace at some point too, paying your dues as well.
Yes.
It's like, no matter where you are in your life, what age you are, but there's always you've got to pay some dues. And if you say you want to, if you want to be a syndicator, there is a process to kind of get there. If you want to be whatever it is, certainly I love the thought of partnering with experts and getting there faster and smarter through doing that. Because I mean, you're going to make mistakes still, but you're going to make a whole heck of a lot less if you do it the right way.
Absolutely.
Really wise.
And they also often have connections for you.
Yep.
That would help you along your way. It's smarter and safer way to do it.
So with that said, how do you elevate others around you?
Wow, you definitely want to live a life of example. Your integrity is important. I always want to make sure I'm doing the right things in the right way. I have a team of people that depend on me. I have a couple of people that just quit their jobs. Man, that's an awesome responsibility I have. Big paying jobs because they're like, Dave, I see what you're doing and you taught me how to do it. And, we're working together and they're quitting their jobs and doing what I am loving and doing. That to me is an awesome responsibility. So it makes me think a lot more. And the other day when our assets went over $100 million on our portal, I'm like, there's $120 million worth of investor capital given through Thompson Investing.
That's awesome.
And I'm thinking that's an awesome responsibility. So the more that we do, I guess the bigger that we get, whatever that means, more investors, more client partners that work with me and I help them develop a business working with me. All of those kind of things make me appreciate, make me feel I'm grateful for what I'm doing. but also, it keeps me more grounded in that, I got to be smart about taking care of my health. I got to be smart about, taking care of my relationships. Every, communication I have with investors, I don't want anything to, what I'm putting out there in content, all of that stuff is magnified now. I'm not a small fry out there. So I have impact, and, it just makes you feel you're more responsible, and that you want to do the right thing. Because you have more people watching. Yeah.
Man, there's been so much good stuff here. I mean, I could spend hours and hours and hours talking to you.
It's fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We got to cut it off.
I know, but I am curious to know, with that said, do you have any parting thoughts or words of wisdom for Elevate Nation that we haven't really, I know we could go so deep for many more hours, but I'm just curious, what's anything else that you would embark upon Elevate Nation?
Well, I guess we kind of touched on it. I'm a little bit older from a standpoint of, it took me a while to really figure it out. And I have a daughter right now in high school. She's really smart, hard worker, and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do in college. And I was there. I did everything wrong in my 20s. I mean, I went to 5 colleges. I tried to play college baseball. I traveled around. I changed majors 3 times. I did 2 degrees and a master's. So from the time I was 18 to about 29 years old, I was in school trying different jobs, hotel, restaurant management, I don't know, lawn business, you name it. And at the end of my 20s, when I look back today, my 20s was the most tumultuous decade of my life. And so what I'm trying to embark on her, and when my oldest child, 4 years, she knew exactly. Computer science, 4 years at UT, done working at Disney in California. But she's very creative. So she married up technical with creative. I said, that's a perfect company for you. But then I'm looking at my daughter, Mia. I'm like, Mia, just because it worked out for her at this point doesn't mean, look what Dad did. Okay, Dad at the, didn't even know, I met my wife when I was almost 30. I got to graduate school. I got out of graduate school when I was 29 years old. I got my first real job when I was 30. Yeah, right. Everyone's laughing, but
you're a late bloomer. But
I was a late bloomer, and then I did 20 years. I feel like maybe too long, and then I'm in my 50s, and I found out what I really love to do. So I guess my message to a lot of people is don't give up on that. Trying to find what you want to do. And a lot of the things I learned along the way. Listen, it wasn't like I was in a corporate role for 20 years and hated life. No, it wasn't that.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I traveled all over the world. I met some incredible people. I've been to Turkey. I've been to Brazil 40 times. I traveled. I mean, I was in a role that was like emerging markets, and so I went to some fascinating places. I worked with some really smart people. I had some really great projects. I learned a lot about skills along the way. Like even when I had the issue with the wire fraud, I knew from experiences, the people who aren't affected, you got to make sure that they are not going to get drawn into this. I know the people that were affected, we got to fix it. And then we got to come up with a resolution action plan. All that came from the corporate world. And if I didn't have that experience, I don't know, I might have just blew up. I may have paid $1 million. Who knows? Right. But I know that these are a collection of experiences, not to get frustrated, but not to give up, and always keep evolving, meeting people, asking questions. But it happened for me later. And, I basically could probably retire from this business in a couple of years. And in 5 years, it was a monster huge. You never know when you're going to be the Colonel Sanders and the Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe. You're never going to know when you're going to be Grandma Moses and when you're 80s. And so I guess for me, depending on where your listeners are, and if you have a lot of young listeners, I guess the message is, don't get too hung out and strung out if you haven't figured it out in your 20s what's going on. Because I just tell my daughter, and just let it evolve. Just what's interesting to you, let's take it from there. And she's struggling a little bit, kind of figuring that out. I know it's a stressful time. And then if you're older and you're burned out in your corporate career, don't think it's over, because the best part of my life has really happened over the last 3 or 4 years, because now I've created a lifestyle that's awesome, and I'm loving what I'm doing. And it just happened a little bit later for me. That's all. No big deal.
Yeah, and age is only a number. And one of the things I feel like this space, just real estate in general, and all the limitless opportunities that exist here, is that there's not a ton of average references for folks. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't hit the expected box, so now I'm missing it. So I do think it's great to just have that other reference of, what, Dave has been able to do this
different ways, right?
in a different way. So everybody's path is going to be unique, and man, your story is so much fun, and you're so much fun, and I look forward to getting to know you for hopefully many, many more years. And I really want to thank you
we just
again.
met a couple months ago, right? So
we did.
That was awesome. But look forward to staying in touch, Tyler. And thanks so much for the time. Hope the listeners got a few things out of it. And if they need to reach out, you'll provide information, right? Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. So, well, what I would say is that obviously you can find Dave at thompsoninvesting.com. And actually, Dave has got a pretty cool offer there. He's got a book there we were talking about.
Hang on 1 second. Don't move.
Yeah. Okay. Got it? All right, we got riches in niches on Dave's website. So go to the website there and check that out. It's a pretty cool book. And Dave, like I said, man, this has been so much fun. And I want to thank Elevate Nation again for being here and listening to us. And hopefully you got a lot of action items here. I want to definitely encourage everybody who listened to go back and rewind the show, play this again, and really kind of take notes. I mean, we do have a transcript on the website as well, so go ahead and take a look at that. But reach out to Dave and stay in contact with him. And at the end of the day, it is about sharing with other people. It's about giving the information, having the abundance mindset, teaching this to someone else, but taking massive action. What's one thing that you learned today that you can take massive action on? And go ahead and do that and live the life that you were meant to live. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. And Dave, thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Tyler. Had fun. Enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit tylerchesser.com.